Type yes if you can hear me. Excellent. Please excuse you for passing 10 minutes late. I have a feeling that the Dark Masters aren't particularly happy about me during this webinar. There's certainly been a few challenges for me to get this started today. Max's go-to webinar. So yeah, this kind of stuff does honestly, really, truly does happen. So I know that they don't like being exposed because the whole nature of the whole thing is they like things being done in secret. So anyway, it's good to be here and good to have all of you listening, and thank you for attending and being part of it here today. So just some housekeeping before we get started. If you could just put your phones and social media on silent and get ready for a really, really exciting webinar today. We're going to be having plenty of time and really making this happen. So let's enjoy this and let's just move this forward and let's just see this come about. So what we're calling this today is basically resolving the karmic riddle sabotaging your finances, which really basically summarizes what the whole Dark Masters is about and how these guys actually work. So when I'm talking about resolving a karmic riddle and talking about what that means, what I'm actually talking about is Dark Masters work only to the extent that you have an opening in your energy field that lets them get in. And it's really, really important for you to understand that. But they really can't do much with you unless they basically got some kind of loophole or way of getting in. So this is the very power of Dark Masters and how they can work and get in. If they don't basically have that kind of karmic access to you, there's not an awful lot they can actually do. So what we're going to be doing today, sorry, just jumping ahead of me, is we're going to be starting off just by allowing this activation. So this is Metatron's cube. So just focusing on that, just to allow you just to feel the power of that sacred geometry and that sacred energy. It's really effective and really nice. So just breathe this basically into your third eye. So how you do this is just breathe it in and allow it to access into your third eye. And you should be starting to feel some really powerful energy activation. This is sacred geometry in its finest. Okay, so just report actually. What did you experience on that? Just did anyone sense anything? Because you'll see that in Metatron's cube, you've got everything from the flower of life to the Sri Yantra. There's a number of different very, very sacred geometry which has been proven to actually impact your pineal gland. Which means opens up your energy field and open up your portals. Max noticed a powerful alignment of inner matter. Anna Clarity noticed the pyramid this time. Linda tingling all over. James calmness. Isaac, we see the Leviathan. Yeah. Anyone else? Just Christine, just opening, just love the white this time. It's very important to understand that even in basically scientific works experiments where they would actually create life-size cubes and flowers of life and pyramids, they'd have people sitting in there with health problems and depression and things like that for up to half an hour non-stop. And within half an hour to an hour, generally any physical ailment was healed, any back pain or anything like that was fixed up. So these things are really powerful. So just even imagine it further, just encircling your whole being, your whole frame of mind. Just imagine it covering your whole energy field, your etheric energy field, and just absolutely just taking over and consuming your whole being. So just imagine, mentally project that you're actually sitting in one, but you're actually in a life-size Metatron's cube. And again, keep in mind that when David Wilcock's team did this experiment, they discovered that not only did this work to effectively clear people's energies, heal them of diseases when they were sitting in life-size flower of lights and cubes and that, but they also found that even if they just mentally projected it, the results are pretty much the same as when it was physically there. So you will feel it activate. You will feel it go through your veins. Yeah, Christine goes, wow, absolutely. Helen's seeing patterns, no feeling as such. That's fine. People see different things, Helen. Sheldon, calmness. Susan, through my body. Natasha, ascending. Christine, see the universe in there with the black and the blue. Yeah.
I see Metatron.
Williams said he's actually seeing Metatron, so yeah, wow.
In his full glory too. He like as a whole archangel.
As a full archangel. Yeah, well, Metatron loves these light masters like Metatron and others love anything like that. Jeff, mind is vibrating. So what this is doing is activating us before we start this webinar to really bring us into this place of expansion, of calmness. Tina, calmness, expansion. Lexi can't access the chat for some reason. Well, you're in the chat now, Lexi, so you have access to it. Major cold chill, surge of energy, can definitely feel Metatron from Lexi. It was pretty funny, Lexi. I can't access the chat, and then she's got all these chats in here. Anna only has a question link, not chat. Yeah, well, basically, Anna, your questions are coming, your comments are coming in here. So what that means is that just type in the questions. Carmen, yep. So just keep allowing that to come in for a bit, just a little bit more. Okay, so what we're going to be covering today now in this webinar. So you're going to be learning various things. Yeah, oh wow, release of pain for Linda. That's wonderful, Linda. Christine is now seeing magenta, violet. Anna can feel Mother Mary's presence. That's wonderful. Natasha feeling glorious. Jeff feeling vastness. What you're going to learn here is how many financial struggles, health issues, toxic relationships caused by dark magic, imprints, and energy put on you by Satan, dark masters, entities, and druids to sabotage your growth and prevent you succeeding. So you'll be amazed as you learn this. Some of you on this webinar would already be pretty aware of a lot of this, but you will learn this more and more. You will learn who really controls the world, how many celebrities, world leaders, and billionaires are practicing Satanists who use dark magic and sorcery to control and enslave the public, and how to release yourself from these programs and traps. The karmic loops and energy fractures exploited by dark masters to attack and sabotage your finances, how to seal these up and become immune to dark masters and negative energy attacks. That's a really important one to understand. So understand that dark masters, that when they desire to work with you, they basically exploit the karmic loops and energy fractures, and they find things from your past lives, from your karma, and things that you haven't resolved in your ancestral line, because they know how the laws and the realms of this planet work. So it's really important to understand that just like every kind of realm has laws that govern the realm. For example, there's a law that all of you know called the law of gravity, which governs what happens if you decide to walk up a building. But unless you found a supernatural ability to overcome it, you will fall off the building. You won't just hover in the air. So that's one example of a law. Then there's laws around weather, around climate. There's laws around the sun and the moon and the stars, and how they basically move and how the earth moves around the sun. And likewise, there's various realms. When you look at the galactic realms and what's called the Light Council, the Brotherhood, every planet has its laws, has its realms, exactly in the same way. as in this current dimensions that we live in, there are laws and realms depending which country you're in. So it's very important to understand that the ones who control the planet are generally the ones who understand the laws the best. And that's pretty straightforward and pretty logical. So the conquerors basically make the laws in terms of how they run things. And you can see that whoever's ruling the planet are the ones who best understand these laws. And so they know these karmic laws and energy fractures, and they know how to access them, sabotage people, and keep people sealed up and immune, basically. So the key is that you'll be learning how to seal yourself up, how to clear things, and become immune to these dark masters and attacks. And also very important, I'll just reiterate a little bit on the second point about who really controls the world, is understanding that they also know about the realm of these planets, that you can't basically, it's a bit like you can't go into France unless you're going on a French passport, for example, or unless you've got in there illegally. You basically have to get a French passport or at least some kind of visa to get in, or fly in and go through your immigration and customs. So likewise, to operate on this planet and do stuff, the Dark Masters have to work through human incarnations or people who are living on this planet right now. Somebody living in an energetic body can't just turn up and run the planet. They have to operate and incarnate through people. So understand that these Dark Masters are doing just that. They're incarnating and they're operating through people, and this is where many celebrities, world leaders and billionaires are practicing Satanists. I've even known some people very aware of this area to go as far as to say it's hard to find anyone at these very, very high levels who don't in some way do this. Some obviously more culpably and obviously than others, but who don't in some way, whether knowingly or unknowingly, do this. There is a very interesting book called Occult Theocracy, for example, by Lady Queensborough, who was actually paid for and financed by Henry Ford to write the book. Because as he became wealthy, he discovered this himself and who really controlled the world. And so he desired to expose it. So he actually paid and sponsored her to write the book. And he was so happy with the content and how it showed how it worked and some of the symbols and occult magic that they were using to control the world. But at one stage, for a brief period, he was putting them all into a Ford. In every Ford motor car that was going out of his factory, he was placing them in there. Only to then, of course, after having 3 factories firebombed, he stopped doing it. This is hard knowledge to get hold of, but when I was involved in my underground movement and working with some of the higher level people, I was shown a lot of this knowledge. So it's quite fascinating. And he basically stopped doing it, pretty much erased all trace of his involvement in it pretty quickly, obviously because he was pretty nervous. So, introduction to some of the most dangerous sabotaging dark masters who control the financial realm and stops you from becoming abundant, and how to defeat them without extra effort. So, pretty important to understand this, and we have been touching, for some of you coming to our free webinars on Sunday, a little bit about this, but in this program and what comes out of this, we're going to be exploring this a lot more specifically around finances and learning a lot more advanced, what I call knowledge of how this all really works. So what this webinar is to do is to awaken you to the truth about dark masters, how they operate, and how to begin the process of releasing yourself out of this. And for the imprints and traps, how they exploit karmic loops to becoming financially abundant and living a more fulfilling life. I'll be making an offer to people who stay to the end of this webinar to attend the course with the aim of resolving this karmic riddle, clearing implants. So this is a free one today to obviously give you really good quality learnings in this area, get you started. And for those of you who are keen to take this to the next level and learn a little bit more, there will be this ongoing learning opportunity where you can learn about this, and especially not just only learn about dark masters, but also the scarnets, which we will be touching on not really that much today, but it's something that's very important to understand. And I can truthfully tell you that myself, that whenever I'm having irritations, I'm having fears just take hold of me, which I can't seem to shake, or feeling depression come out of me, like literally, like from nowhere, I generally know the scarnet's turned up in my field. So these days, these things don't hang around me. When they come, they go pretty quickly because I've learned how to do this. But the point is, many people, we have a little joke in our family, are walking the scarnets. You know, they just literally have the scarnets all throughout their energy field, and basically, so you'll be learning a bit about the scarnets today. So generally people who've done our previous courses, we've seen some pretty profound results, and we've seen definite increase in overall happiness, alignment with purpose. We've even had clients increase their income from 50% to 500%, and in a couple of extreme cases, a whole lot more. So no question that those who, once you master this area, you start to see the shifts in your life. Now, even if you don't get this offer, I'm confident you'll get tremendous value in this webinar today. So this is for you if you know you have blocks around money and you sense it is very likely you have dark masters or evil activity sabotaging you. So, the very least, you are open to it. You've had financial challenges and may even have experienced demons or dark entities. You're having serious financial challenges and know this is a significant reason why. So, that's the first one. So you know that you've got blocks and you sense it's very likely. And I can tell you that a lot more people have this going on than realize, especially when you're walking on a path of truth and light and you're here to make a difference on the planet. Very common. I can remember some years ago when I was running a physical like Ascension church over in Rockingham in Perth, and I had a West Coast Eagles footballer turn up in my church. Now, yeah, it's totally serious, which gave me a bit of a pleasant surprise and a bit of a like, wow. And I went up and talked to him afterwards and was like, you know, what got you to come here? And he said, oh, no, I heard from some friends of your church that you're really open to these higher realms, and especially that you're aware about Satanism. And I said, well, what do you know about that? He said, well, he goes, I was in Thailand on a boys trip after an end of season gig. And he said, and what happened was, he said, he said, I was just out with the boys, had some alcohol, got a little bit drunk, went back to my hotel room, and next minute before my eyes, I'm seeing demons turn up in my room. And he said, these horrible looking beings, and it freaked me out. He said, of course, I didn't tell my teammates because they would have thought I'd gone mad. But he said, I basically got back and found the nearest church I could and got them to pray with me and help me. So he just said, but he said, finding a church back over here that actually knows about this stuff is pretty difficult. So he said, that's how I turned up. So, and I had quite a number of people tell me very similar stuff. So it's very, very knowledgeable, and you'll see that more and more as we come up here and as we start to go through this webinar. So that's the first one. Second one is you're doing well financially, but still you sense there's dark activity going on in your finances or business or competitors affecting you. You're here because you're keen to clear about it ASAP. So in other words, you're just keen to get rid of it. You feel there's something going on. It could be like you even keep hitting a brick wall and can't go further. And it's like you sense there's something blocking you. The third one is that you're just basically ready to go to the next level and you desire to learn more about this or accelerate your growth as a master or healer. So just type in a 1, 2, or 3, depending on which one best fits you, just so I can get a little bit of an idea. Okay, I'm getting 1s everywhere. Plenty of 1s, yeah. Yep, got a few 3s. A few 2s. Yep. Fascia 666. Yeah, so lots of 1s and plenty of 2. And got a few 3s. Yeah. Jeff Page says he's a 10. Fair enough, Jeff. Okay, great. So thank you for that. So plenty of 1s, number of 2s, and quite a few 3s, and a couple of smart asses. That's my summary of that. So, okay, so let's get on with this. Now, hang on, this is weird. Just sorry about this.
Right.
I've got my, oh, hang on.
Hey.
I had one of my, okay. There was a bit of a problem there. There was a version which I did, which went missing. So, lol, demons in the keyboard. Okay, so, yep, okay, fix it up. So, look, basically anything around negative money experiences and investment blockages, believe you me, they can cause all of this kind of stuff. especially when you're doing a path where you're here to help humanity, understand that you're especially prone to attack. Yeah, Christine, great, you can laugh about it. Yeah, well, look, at the end of the day, if you're going to basically, let's say if you've got people who are troublesome and you're going to basically go after and stop what they're doing, it's a bit like you got a competitor in business who's really causing problems, and you really go to basically take his market share. You can rest assured that they'll somehow fight back. So that's why I can laugh about it, Christine. Okay, so a little bit about me. So, how did a 30s experience in major spiritual and prophetic works? I've been doing this for a long time. I've studying and understanding Bible, understanding higher laws. This is something I've been doing for a very, very, very long time. The founder of the Awakening Within, online spiritual group specializing in healing financial diseases, City Awakening, Church of the Revolution, taking back the cities from dark forces and corrupt governments. So I've been doing both those works, 10 years the Australian Tax Office, 20 plus years as a tax specialist in Australian and international tax planning. So basically, been doing quite a bit of stuff in my life, plenty of experience in spiritual stuff. I've run various churches before. I've generally run pretty radical kind of groups. I haven't run, as all of you who've attended previous webinars have worked out by now, I run anything but a mainstream kind of work. I'm a strong believer in the power of churches and spiritual works. At the same time, I'm also equally a powerful believer in that I see that the churches of today have really missed it by a long way. And we do need churches or spiritual centers to help people ascend and activate and clear things, but we just need churches and spiritual centers who can take people to the next level kind of thing, and who are operating in truth and actually bringing transformation. I've been involved in some very interesting discussions even on Facebook the other day with someone who's from a church they were talking about some different churches and how they were changing the planet. And I just was writing like, you're trying to tell me that because a whole lot of people just turned up and did smoke machines and dancing at an event, which basically, was probably Lady Gaga's concert would eat all over you, and you're trying to tell me that that's somehow changing the planet. And they said, well, the main thing is we're telling people about Jesus. And I'm like, yeah, well, I said, if anything, I said, when you run things like a galah and talk about Jesus, you make Jesus look stupid, which didn't go down too well when I said all that. But the point is that people by now, according to Ken Wilber's Religion of Tomorrow, every year there's a significant decline in any kind of attendance at churches or traditional mainstream religious groups, because clearly they're no longer helping people and making a difference. It amazes me that 30 years since I started this journey, or actually I started it a lot, probably 40 years. I started it when I was 11. I noticed that back then I was involved in churches and in spiritual works where demons, dark masters were talked about and people were aware about them. I've been amazed how much there's been this move in the church area to almost deny their existence or else kind of see them as irrelevant. And it's quite fascinating that there's actually, if anything, there's more awareness coming out in the community as a whole now, as many celebrities are openly coming out and acknowledging their work with masters like Satan and others. So that's a bit of my background. Finding the Awakening Within. I've spoken on various cruise ships over the years. I spoke on this particular Oasis of the Seas in 2011. That was quite an amazing time. I loved every minute of it. And I spoke there for 21st Century Education on a major international investment event. So I've been on different boats. I've traveled to countries. I've taught and spoken both as a financial expert as well as a spiritual teacher across the world, as well as doing webinars. I shared the stage of Richard Branson and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Here's some of my family members. Of course, Edward, who runs the Awakening Within day to day on the far right and does most of the work. William, who many of you know, our little in-house resident shaman who does a lot of work in clearing dark masters off people. And James, of course, who's our super gun researcher and runs a lot of City Awakening in the background and helps me with that. So this has been the beauty. Since these guys have learned about these dark masters and how to clear them. And we had a situation even the other day where James was actually James was actually got quite sick, and he was in a lot of pain in his stomach and almost and crying. And this was unexpected. And William, of course, walked in and just looked at him straight away and goes, "What's going on with you?" And he said he was really sick. And he goes, "Well, you got like 9 demons all in your energy field. You know, what happened to you?" And of course, he admitted he'd been speaking to his grandma and got caught up in a whole lot of stuff and some negative energy with her. So William then cleared it all out of him, and then he was fine. So the point is, these things can really, really affect you. And if you learn to master them, they can transform your finances, they can transform your health, they can certainly transform your emotional state of being. This is where I went to Utah and spoke over in basically in Utah, and was actually at a basketball game where we saw the Utah Jazz play the Clippers, went with my boys, and that was a lot of fun. This is giving you a bit of an idea about our life and the things we enjoy, and that was a pretty great experience over there. There was, as soon as we walked into the basketball stadium, every single person was given a t-shirt for Utah Jazz, and the whole idea was to create the most intimidating environment for the opposition team, and they certainly succeeded. And made me think about how much I'd like to do the same with Dark Masters and on planet Earth, see the most intimidating environment for them imaginable. So all they desire to do is just run away as fast as they can and not be around. Whereas the truth is they're welcomed as a whole in the planet. So when we engage in swindling, in greed, in raping, pillaging, plundering and things like that, that's the kind of things that start happening, and pollution of our planet and destruction of our rainforest. So this is when I was in Sedona in America, in a really profound spiritual place. For those of you who've never been there, it's known to be a place where people see strange visitations, even UFOs. I'd heard about it and wasn't expecting anything, and I saw a UFO on my first day, and I was so excited, and I literally did. And then I never saw one again. I've been many times since and never seen it quite like I did the very first day. But I've since met many people who were there who saw similar kind of things and all that. So, a good place for you to go to. So, basically, I'm an interesting individual, really. I'm involved heavily in everything from finance. There's a one side of me that's the guy in the suit who's a financial guy. And then there's the guy on the left who's basically the easygoing guy who loves to hang out on the beach and have fun and do spiritual work and help people. So the two sides to me, and all of us have those two sides to us. Okay, so now let's have a look at these Dark Masters. Who and what are they? So they're the ones who presently run this planet and even are physically incarnate here. They can attack your thoughts. They can cause you to have financial challenges. They can attack your sexual areas. So they can attack all different kinds of areas. So basically, generally when people start to have challenges in any kind of areas, understand these guys really do this. They can throw thoughts into it. So it's important to understand. And if you don't believe, for example, in dimensions, then you're probably on the wrong webinar, but I'm presuming you will do. But basically, we have multiple dimensions. We're in the 3D when we walk around our physical body, whereas when we're in the imagination realm, for example, we're in the fourth dimension. And then as we start to get through in other realms, you can go up to 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and you've got the Christ consciousness dimension, which is in the 12th. So Dark Masters are generally operating from the 4th dimension or 5th dimension to basically attack you and work within the realm of the mind. And by and large, they do control those realms. So what happens is that it was very interesting for me, because even before I got heavily involved in this kind of work, or when I was younger, it always made sense to me that there had to be both dark and light. I mean, there's light in the day, there's dark at night. We see that. That's just an obvious example. We see that we see people who are amazing people in our life who bring incredible joy to our life and great people. And then we got some horrible people who really basically don't quite do the same. You got people who do everything from, like we said, pedophiles, rapes, who are ultimately what I call people who are very evil and people who I believe should be far more severely dealt with in society. So when these people start being allowed to run riot and do what they do, for example, and the law doesn't actually limit them from doing them, it really does open this sort of stuff to start happening in society, and for them to do this and start to attack your thoughts, put negative fear in you around your finances, put fear in you and telling you that you're not going to succeed. And I can remember very early on in my spiritual journey, I was taught by a great master who said to me, generally when you have negative thoughts, either it's just from your own, past or belief systems, or he said it can often happen from dark masters. And generally the way you know if it's coming from a dark master is it generally comes completely unexpectedly. Whereas let's just say, for example, that you're involved in a business which you are afraid of, you don't really know much about it, you've had bad experiences in the past, and then old thoughts start coming up. That's just generally your own consciousness. And then dark masters sure can aggravate that, but that's just generally your own. Whereas let's just say you're driving along and you're feeling completely fine, and let's just say, for example, that a good example is that you bought some gold or you bought some silver or you've started a new business, and just out of the blue, a thought just hits your mind, your business is going to fail. Just completely out of the blue. This is the kind of stuff that they actually can do. They actually plant or throw thoughts into you. It can also even be other people as well, or basically dark masters incarnating upon Earth through humans who are specifically attacking you, or people around you, like a partner or someone who's angry towards you, projecting their thoughts. So there's a few different realms, but dark masters is certainly a very big one and a very common one, and they generally hit you in the areas they know is your weakness. So they move in great powers that are highly evolved, even what's called superconscious. They can read your past lives and karmic loops 3 weeks before you're born. Now, I can remember when I learnt with some great masters, I was astonished to hear a lot of this. It was interesting too when I purchased a book recently called The Religion of Tomorrow by Ken Wilber, who's a master in consciousness teaching and explaining about different realms of consciousness and ways to evolve and grow. And there's 3 tiers of what's called conscious growth, and virtually the whole planet's in tier 1. There's a small number of people in what's called tier 2, which are at a higher realm of thought beyond fear. And tier 3 are people who are in what's called superconscious, which they said there's not really anyone in that level yet. But superconscious is where you're so connected that you can teleport, you can basically you can read past lives of pretty much everyone. You feel connected to everyone's past lives. You can read the history of humanity in an instant, anytime you desire. That's what's called tier 3 superconscious. And one of the things that Ken Wilber said is he said a very scary thing is when very evolved people in tier 3 have what's called shadows they haven't resolved, or like wounds or whatever else. And so many of the dark masters are actually very, very evolved beings who in past lives or in past existences were actually great light workers who went off and had shadows they never dealt with and have now become dark masters working for the other side. Like a good example is Dark Master Balaam, or another one is Jezebel, who some of you who are there on Sunday would learn about, this dark feminine one. In the Kabbalah, for example, they talk about Lilith, who was the original what's called wife of Adam, as they called her, which was basically a woman who basically moved away from him, left him, and moved into the dark, and still to this day. So that was the name they gave her, but basically Jezebel, the dark feminine, and from what I've learned, one of the controllers of the financial realm. I was amazed when years ago I started meeting some people in the underground movement and people who are very, very knowledgeable in this area. And people who just said, we don't even bother going to churches and we don't bother talking to most people. And the only reason they talk to me is they're amazed to hear somebody running a church and running a law firm at the time who they said actually, well, as they put it to me, they said you were semi-awakened, which I laughed about. They just said, which at the time for my ego was a bit of a hit. But they said, yeah, you're semi-awakened. They said most people aren't really that awakened at all, so we just can't be bothered talking to them. But you are semi-awakened, so we think you're worth talking to. And it was, quite interesting when they said that to me. And then one of them started talking to me, and then I said, well, will you come and teach me? And he goes, well, I will. And he said, and so I just had him speak to me in a few small groups of people. And this is where I learned a lot of this stuff and how to address these. And I must admit, when I was first learning this, for someone who was very logical, and there was part of me that was like, this is just a little bit kind of over the top, really. Surely this is just a little bit too way out. Until I started seeing things happen. Like when I started using the incantations they taught me, And one of the things they taught me was they said that the Holy Bible, they've done everything to cut this out from the planet because they know full well that the Bible is one of the best books to be used to undo incantations of dark masters. And I was like, really? And they said, well, yeah, absolutely. And they said it's one of the best books possible to do that. And one of the guys who taught me, he said to me, well, he said, put it this way. He goes, when he was helping someone come out of Satanism, who'd been one of the highest level occultic leaders, the first thing he said to him was, how on earth did you know that we use the Bible? That was the first thing he said to him. Like, how on earth did you know? He said, we keep that very secret because he said, this is where we get the names of all of our dark masters we implant into people and how we keep the planet under dark command and under reptilians and Nephilims, so that the planet can't evolve and attack people who are what we see, basically dangerous or threatening to our work. So that was what basically happened. So it was pretty fascinating, really. And when I started doing this and reading some of these scriptures from the Bible and speaking them over my business and my church, I couldn't believe it. I started to see things shift, but I also saw very unusual attacks happen and things start happening and just sign after sign happening and seeing things just shift and change and transform and all kinds of stuff. So dark masters move in great powers, are highly evolved, even super conscious. They can read your past lives and karmic loops 3 weeks before you were born. It's just something that I also learned, but basically but the really best ones are so super conscious that they can actually access what's called the portal of souls, where souls are coming onto this planet. They can read into it and they can basically see who's coming in 3 weeks before you're born. So as soon as they know who you are, they know your past lives, they know your weaknesses, they also know if you're someone who they see is potentially here on this planet to go against their agenda and what they're looking to do. If they see you either neutral or somebody who actually worked for them in the past, they just pretty much leave you alone a lot more, apart from just basically giving you the same shit they give their own sort. Whereas by contrast, when you're someone like many of you who'd be on this webinar and the fact you've attracted to this, I'd guarantee you that many of you here have just sometimes asked in your life, why is it that it's like no matter what I seem to do, I get, these things happen to me? Or why is it that I seem to get these weird attacks? Or why is it whenever I seem to step into this thing, then this happens? And I'm sure many of you experience that. Why is it that financially I just seem to keep getting these weird things happen to me, or attacks, or in some extreme cases, why is it that I just seem to get these visitations and scary things happen to me? And, my own partner, Sammy Lucas, she's basically had a number of things happen to her, where even recently, where she's still been learning about this stuff herself. And then the other night she was in the room, as clear as a bell, saw a dark master turn up and got the shock of her life. And of course, we came in to check out what was going on, and we worked out that, there's something that happened with her that needs to be fixed up in a karmic loophole. So we went ahead and cleared it from her, and then it stopped happening straight away. So understand, these guys are vicious, they're mean, and they really, really, really know how to go after you. So who's felt that, especially around your finances, that you've especially felt unusual attack around an area? So one area that's like no matter what you seem to do, you've had these challenges, or even if you're actually making good money, it's like you just seem to keep getting blocked or trapped into doing things in your financial realm or business, but you just can't seem to get out of. So who's experienced that or been experiencing that? Yeah, so pretty much everyone said that. So yeah, well, I've certainly had that happen to me and knowing what it's like, and it's anything but fun. So yeah, I'm getting yeses everywhere. So how one ticks every point made, yeah. So, and some of the dark masters that are on here today, you probably would never have heard of, and some of you would have, and some of you won't, and certainly over the course or program we'll be doing, I'll guarantee you that no matter who you are on this webinar today, you wouldn't have heard of some of them. We're going to be covering some of the ones that have really not been touched on today. So they're moving great powers, highly evolved, even super conscious. They can read your past lives and karmic loops 3 weeks before you're born. They can place energetic implants and hit your weaknesses. They can initiate, and you'll see this shortly when we look at 1 Kings 21 in the Bible. but lawsuits, tax audits. And if any of you have ever had letters from governments or audits or frightening letters against you which come after you, or letters which somehow from banks, any of you ever had that, like these scary letters from banks chasing you for money or from people suing you? Who's been through that kind of stuff? Yep. Yeah, tax audit for one. Yep. Because letters is one of the main things you will actually see that basically these dark masters use people. This is why banks and governments are so big on letters and legal notices. I used to run a course on common law legal notices to teach people how to counteract them, because I remember one of the first things I learned was I know about the power of language, and some of the more there's a number of you in this webinar today who've been in some of my more advanced courses previously and know my whole teaching about light language and higher level language, and how these dark masters know exactly how to use language to enslave you and to trap you, and how they use legal notices and letters, and how I've used these to get out of everything from speeding fines to censuses to not voting for 20 years and all kinds of stuff. So once you understand this system, the point is they know this. This is why language, words, they lower the frequency of your language. They get you talking in a more negative, lower frequency language and things like that. Tina says, you get so far when going fully commit to life purpose, get blocked, challenge or strange things, and people bob up to distract you and divert your attention. So, yep, Brad doesn't like lawyers. Tina about life purpose. Alan, Rochelle, I heard how angry the dark masters were at my ex. I heard how I heard them say his name. It was scary. Yeah, wow. No, I actually had a friend, Rochelle, and years ago she was actually married to to this pastor who I knew, and he went away on a trip, and after being away for a couple of weeks, she just felt awkward and anxious about him, and and just felt something wasn't right. But she talked to him and seen that came. And then one night she had this clear as a bell. She had the most vivid dream, and someone got into her bed, and she thought, "Oh, he's back." And she turned. There was this woman glaring at him with this, evil look of triumph. And she grabbed her by the breast and squeezed her and laughed at her, and then she woke up. She later found out that was the exact moment in night, but he cheated on her with someone else. So these things are real, and they're behind this. One thing I learned in the underground movement when I was taught by these people was how specifically when people like me or others are doing this kind of work, they specifically target you in your relationships. They try to break up your marriage or relationship. They know it will affect you, and they'll attack your finance especially hard. And I certainly noticed that since I've got back into this work, there's been a big increase in those kind of attacks on me. I've also noticed, though, that the more peace I've had, because this time around I've known how to counteract them. Whereas when I first ran a work like this 15 years ago, I really didn't know what I was doing. And I can remember teaching this kind of stuff and paying the price for it. And for many years, I stopped doing it and got more involved in my other business. Whereas, as many of you know, last year I had an encounter with 9 angels or ETs who turned up and gave me the fright of my life and told me that they were basically get back to my work and what I was called to do. And I argued with them for quite a while and ended up really being in shock for 3 months before I finally did it. But basically, since that point, I have to say, I certainly had more attacks, but I couldn't say I'm more happy than ever before, and I have a lot more peace because I know how to counteract them this time around. So just know that the more you get on your path and the more you open to this knowledge, whether you like it or not, it's a bit like the Matrix. Once you know the truth does set you free, but it also means that you're no longer ignorant. You've no longer got any excuses, and you're going to certainly have been paying you more attention in what you're doing. So, yeah, Max, this is really interesting. Max says he used to be a natural active astral traveler till Dark Master started entering his dreams and creating fear about realizing, yeah, look, that's pretty common. That's exactly what they do. Christine says, you can see this all the time, people speaking in that lower level negative language. Yeah, absolutely. So what Max said is very true. I have a number of friends I know who astral traveled, who got scared doing it because they start seeing these ones. My former wife, Grace, who many of you know, she used to have very vivid sea energy. She would see spiritual. She even would have angels come and talk to her physically and everything. And then she started seeing traces of demons and dark masters, and it scared her so much that she basically pretty much shut off her vision, and she asked us to basically shut off her gift, which she did. And then she spent years seeking to get it back, and only recently she's got it back. So Christine Norby, I used to get serpents and leviathans coming to me. Yeah, well, when you read the Keys of Enoch, which is a sacred book of knowledge, they talk about the leviathan, which is really basically the serpent, but aims to keep you in the 3D realm and believing you're only in the 3D realm, and you're basically, there's no realm outside of this. So leviathan is what targets most of humanity. So that's one dark master that we definitely will be covering over this course, because this is a very important one to free yourself from. Otherwise, you will keep getting trapped in these 3D entanglements around money and things like that. Lexi avoids astral travel because they tampered with the silver cord in the past life. Yeah, I don't astral travel myself, I'll be frank, because it's a realm where you've got to know what you're doing and got to know how to protect yourself. And that's one thing I've learned very quickly with this one. And I've also known that if you get too far out of your body, you can get trapped in terms of coming back. So I've done traces of it, but I'm very, very cautious about doing it. So Lexi says, I did the same as Grace, cut off my knowledge. Yeah, Lexi's saying she also cut off seeing it because she was seeing too many dark masters and didn't like it. The funny thing was I was the opposite. I actually would get excited when I first started seeing them energetically. I was really excited, and because I just wanted to go after them. So it's just funny how different people do it, and they don't frighten me in the slightest. But it's more, if anything, I get more frustrated, and I've had to learn to calm down, because and one of the reasons I got myself into trouble many years ago was not knowing how to protect myself. And I'm naturally a rule breaker, as many of you know. Whereas I learned when dealing with this realm, you have to follow laws and process. You can't basically break rules in this area. You have to stick within the rules. Whereas my natural tendency is to break rules. And so this is something that I've had to learn in this realm, that you really must follow process. Yes, it's interesting. I'm getting so many messages on this text chat. I could just about spend the rest of the webinar saying them, but just to give you a few. Linda's saying, dark demon comes to me when trying to go to sleep. And then Max, in one astral experience, three masters trapped me in a parallel realm. And a prayer flashed to me, in the name of Jesus Christ, I banish you. I started saying it, and your faces were filled with fear, and I woke up. Wow, Max, that's pretty profound. I've had a very similar thing, and I remember years ago when I had a dark master turn up with me, I was given that exact command too. In the name of, I was actually told to say, in the name of Jesus Christ and by his light, I remove you now. And I did that, and straight away he was gone. So yeah, Max says he opened the Bible immediately, intuitively, and saw the first passage about Jesus telling disciples not to forbid others to banish demons. So very interesting. So much going on here. So anyway, let's say someone is putting guilt on you and you don't speak out against it. You're inviting them in. So this is one thing to share with you. So they only get into your invitation. This is one thing they know. They can't force their way into you. They can only get into your invitation, or because somewhere you've made a pact or agreement allowing them in. So let's say in a past life, or through your ancestors, like your great-grandfather, put a curse, or basically gave a curse over the next 10 generations. And you say, well, why on earth would they do that? Many secret societies like Freemasonry, the Knights Templar, and others, some of them would have various levels of oaths that they would take, where they would make a sacred oath. One of the things I've learned today is people don't take oaths very seriously, whereas oaths are very, very important and are taken in the higher realms. Oaths are taken literally. So if you make an oath saying, I vow that I will never again, fall in love again. Let's just say you do that because you get hurt. Well, guess what? That oath remains binding until you remove it. And I can remember years ago when I got really burnt in a church I was involved, I made a vow that says I'll never fully commit myself to my spiritual path again. because it only leads to hurt. I actually said that, and I'll only ever focus fully on business and do spiritual part-time. And then it kind of slipped away, and every time I'd go on a spiritual path, I'd have health issues and challenges hit me, and I finally discovered what had happened, and I had to go back in time. I had to undo that oath and, really reframe it and take the lesson. And that was more like this, wounding in the church was meant to be a lesson to me, to teach me to step up and become my own leader, because at the time, when I look back, I was actually putting my power to them. I was looking to them for my answers and for my results. So it was a huge lesson for me. So I can put curses and spells on you and cause injuries to you. So they have to be physically incarnate on this earth or working through someone doing that. So very important to get that. Same with lawsuits, tax orders, for example. I had a situation where, and this is being really transparent, but I've been told to step away from my accounting license and to become more focused on the spiritual path, and then just part-time to swap the roles around, and then for part-time to still run my tax and high-level practice, to only do kind of offshore and work more assisting my current business partner. So that's what I've been told to do, to step right back. And I was told this clearly some months ago. I started doing it, then I procrastinated on it. Then I got another message in January to hurry it up, and I started moving, and I procrastinated. Next minute, I got a letter from my own tax agents board saying they wanted to look more closely into a couple of things I'd done previously. And I have to admit, I just started to laugh, because I knew what had happened. Because I know these laws, I knew that because I'd been resisting a direct command from my higher self and from Christ and the Light Masters, I'd opened myself up. So I just read the letter and laughed. And so I just immediately contacted them and said, so if I'm basically resigning and not doing this anymore, does that change things? They said, well, yeah, it will change things. And so I couldn't help laughing how I'd opened myself up to that, because I hadn't taken action soon enough. Natasha says, I've taken a few oaths unintentionally. Well, look, yeah, most people have. And so that's why we're doing this course. People are going to find, Natasha and everyone else, you've made some horrible oaths that you would not even remember, but will come to your remembrance. I mean, I made an oath when I was 20, when I got really hurt by a girl I was deeply loved at the time, but I will never let my heart open fully again. I'll kind of always become more neutral and attached to women, and because I don't want to get hurt. And I couldn't, and then for years, my first marriage with Grace and with girls after that, I always found I was frustrated. I could never really build intimacy in a heart relationship with a woman or anything. So years later, I had to basically go ahead and undo a lot of his oath. I had to undo that oath, and that wasn't easy. Because by this time, of course, other wounds come in. I had dark masters who'd come in to make sure that I kept my oath, and I had to go and remove a lot of these dark masters and fractures out of my heart. Natasha says, by listening to you speak, I now see them coming up. Yeah, look, absolutely. They're totally coming up. So this is what's happening, Natasha. So, yeah, they work on that. They know these realms. They understand the laws of these realms really, really well. So let's just say, for example, you make a statement, or let's say your father says, look, I'll never go into business because it's too risky, and you should make sure you do the same. And you say, yeah, look, I agree. Well, guess what? That oath will remain. I mean, if you go into business, you'll start having all kinds of shit happen to you in business, and you won't understand why. I know that was one oath I dealt with. So many curses, hexes, and spells, some are put on you directly by Satanists and by people who work in that realm, but the vast majority are either self-imposed or from ancestors around you. So most of the time, the Dark Masters know they don't need to go around using Satanists and other people to do it. That's their last resort kind of hitmen, so to speak. They just put the thoughts in your head, and they know your wounds, and they can see your past life stuff. So, for example, if they know you've been wounded a lot in relationships, they know they can hit you in that area. They know that when you get on your path, they can focus on your loneliness. They know, for example, if you've been a swindler in past lives and you can't help yourself, they'll get you allured away by financial gain or by some kind of financial bribe. So they know what to do, and they will hit that weakness and ultimately take out people in their work. And there's many people we know who've run great works who've been taken out by doing this. Nolan says, I've made a few around finances. Yeah, look, you have. And I would love to say I know that I've cleared all my oaths around relationships. I can tell you that now pretty much. maybe if there's any remaining, they'd be, minor one or two. But by and large now, I have a smooth area in my life. Health, I've got a smooth area. I've made good oaths around health. Finances, I'm pretty good now too, but I know Nolene myself. I've become aware, even today and other days, about some oaths that I've made about finances in the past, and which I realised I'd never fully dealt with. And I've been clearing them. And there's a couple that even's coming to mind for me now. So just understand that many of you, Helen, around responsibility and leadership. Yeah, well, I made one around that, Helen. I actually made this rule because my mum once told me, she said, Warren, you're an amazing, seller and speaker and teacher, but you're just not the kind of guy who should ever be running your own work. It was something to that effect. And I said, yeah, you're probably right. And so, of course, I had to really go back and unravel a lot of that. And the truth is, if you don't actively counteract something at the time it's spoken over you and take it on board, guess what? That oath will be binding. So let's just say that I say to you, let's just say I say to a girl today, you'll never get married again. If you leave me and break up with me, you'll never find another guy like me again because I'm the only guy for you, and if you can't see that now, you'll never. And then the girl says to me, yeah, well, look, I know there's no other guy like you, and I just know that. I just don't quite know what to do. And she says that, and she means it at that time. Or let's say she even says it, but doesn't actively counteract it. She's risked opening herself up to some kind of curse or some kind of vow or imprint over herself. So Max says, it is part of the selling souls to the devil idea of dark masters convincing people that they need to work with them for success. Yeah, look, Max, we're about to go into that right now. That's actually really important. And yes, Christine, that is a curse. So there's many examples, and this is like with other, and we'll be covering this in the course, but most of these, like I mentioned, were light, they were beautiful, but they became full of pride and ego and were cast down to this lower earth. Examples of Lucifer, Satan, Jezebel, and also giants who were conceived from when the sons of God slept with the daughters of men. Which what that means in simple terms is that there was angels or ascended masters who actually left the higher dimensions, came into the lower dimensions, brought themselves into a lower physical form, and basically because they desired to get involved with the women. And you can read about this in the Book of Enoch, for example. It's briefly mentioned in Genesis 6:4, but the Book of Enoch writes the whole thing of what happened. And if you have ever heard David Icke or someone like that, and most people now are aware of this group called the Nephilim, just not many understand where they came from fully. But these Nephilim basically came about from this hybrid interbreeding, which was of higher level beings coming with people living on the earth, breaking the rules of the realm. And because they broke the rules of the realm and how the cloning was set up, it basically meant that these hybrid, corrupted 11-strand DNA templated Nephilims came out of it, who were basically a mixture of higher level God and human incarnation. Was an absolute disaster. They basically had no soul like we know it. They went around eating people. And for those of you who studied Greek mythology, they talk about this age of the giants, or even the secret history of the world with Jonathan Black. They talk about this age of the gods coming and connecting with man. And in pretty much every major culture, there's this legend of these beings just turning up out of nowhere, some even coming out of the sea and everything, and basically joining our society. And the whole Greek mythology talks about these giants like Hercules, Gilgamesh, and others. And what happened was this interbreeding meant these 10 feet, 15, 20 feet tall people came about. And just as an aside, in the book called Paradise Planet by Jonathan Gray, or Dead Men's Secrets, his other book, they found numerous fossils and skeletons of these super tall people, which they suppressed. But archaeologists, and Jonathan Gray himself is an archaeologist of these giant people. And what they were doing was going around thirsting and eating people and conquering society because they don't have a soul like we have it. So compassion and care for humanity, humans were just a eating vehicle or something they could eat or something to be used for slavery or mining. And basically, when they were finally dealt with by this thing by flood, they nevertheless have stayed in the in the other dimensions, continuing to cause trouble upon the earth today, and incarnating through people and encouraging them to eat other humans and do that. And yes, that stuff does actually go on. If you don't believe me, go online and read what many celebrities have been coming out about Hollywood. And I'll be mentioning a few of them shortly. But a number of celebrities have come out and said this goes on. Justin Bieber, as one example, left Hollywood specifically because he's so distraught when he discovered that this stuff was going on and that they were actually drinking human blood and sacrifices at a high level of Hollywood. So pretty awful stuff was going on. So these giants were known as Nephilim, with 8 people. They were called the sons of Anak. And they're a huge problem because although they've been cast down to low earth, they have high knowledge, consciousness, and power, but they don't have a soul like we do. Someone said to me recently, in fact, my partner Sammy, she goes, why could people do this stuff? I mean, how can they do this awful pedophilia, child sacrifice, and, in the Catholic Church on high levels? I said, because many of them are actually incarnating beings that don't have a soul. So they actually don't have a soul like we've got one. They're corrupted DNA templates. So when you understand that, you can't think of him, because she said to me, how could another human do this to another human? I said, well, it's actually not. I said, that's the point to realize. I said, anyone I've met who's actually a living flesh and blood human or God seed kind of indigo breed human, there's something in us always that just says that, there's a certain level of how far we will go. So they continually fight and keep humanity from ascending. And when you read the Keys of Enoch, for example, you'll read about these dark masters who've been cast down into these lower realms, who are doing everything they can to avoid archangels, Michael, and the higher angel archangels. So they do this by continuing to keep the planet at a lower consciousness and keeping it trapped. And in that way, they can't get in. So it's very, very interesting. Yeah, Max is commenting quite a bit here, but yeah, Max, it sounds like a higher dimensional incarnating. Yeah, absolutely. So simply we're inviting them in without realizing it. And as you've been to some of our other webinars, they've been placing energetic implants and blocks inside your body for a while. This is to stop you stepping on your path for having access to light masters. It's placed on you to control your thoughts and what you do. But even do specific rituals and sacrifices at night, because this opens up a portal to lock up the energy and put a curse on the public. But I know full well if people are struggling financially and ignorant of spiritual truth, this helps them keep their system and servants in place. So, like I said, we'll be covering a lot of this in the course. There's so much around this kind of area. But they're very, very knowledgeable about the nights, the astral realms, the meridian lines of the body, everything. And one thing I feel to share with you, I actually was going to get an operation done to me 5 months ago. And in fact, look, I'll just say what it was. I was actually looking at getting a vasectomy. And I was actually all set to go to my normal doctor and get a referral. And I had a very, very clear dream. This was in October. And in the dream, I was lying on an operating table, and these 2 men walked up to me in white coats, and one of them pinned me down, and then had this look in his eye, and I was just like, what the heck? And I went to get up and I couldn't get up. And then I woke up, and of course it shook me. And as I tuned in, I was very clearly spoken to by Christ and other masters. They told me, they said, because of the work you're doing, they said, don't do that at this time. They said, you're vulnerable. They said, understand that, they said, many doctors, they said, who paid by pharmaceutical, are working directly for the dark and incarnating dark masters. So they said, be very careful. Don't let anyone go, work on that particular area. You're better off to use other ways to bring contraception than do that. I was given a really clear message. And so I chose not to go ahead with that. But they specifically told me, they said they know how to actually, and I was told this very specifically in a download, they know specifically how to use that to not only cause you pain from an operation, but they can block up portals in you as well. So they said, be very careful, And they said, if you do want to do it, they gave me the name of a city to go to. They said, go to this city and get it done there, and you'll be fine in that city, but don't get it done over here, because the energy portals are open for them to attack you here. So it was quite a sobering experience for me. And in all honesty, when I tuned into it days afterwards, it really felt right, and I was pleased about it. So it isn't to do fear. It's just to absolutely understand that they place energetic implants and blocks inside your body. And when I first started learning this stuff, I was absolutely astonished at some of the things they put in me energetically. And even learning how things like vaccinations and how they actually have certain things put in them. And this wasn't even a religious guy who was believed in Dark Masters, or he was very I wouldn't say skeptical, but he was kind of neutral about it. But he was an expert chiropractor and energetic medicine practitioner, and he told me, he goes, oh yeah, he goes, vaccinations, he said, for example, he told me the polio vaccination, he explained to me what it actually did to my stomach area and the kind of issues it would cause my back. And I said, that's exactly what's been happening to me since I was young. He goes, yeah, well, that's why. So he actually did a special ritual on me to undo my polio vaccination. And straight away, I noticed that from afterwards, things improved in that. So understand that these guys know this kind of stuff. There's even symbols that they can do to you as well. So there's even symbols that they can do for you as well, which can code into you. I can remember I've got a very good energetic medicine healer who I see over here in West Australia. And a little while ago, I went to her and I was doing some work with her, and she said to me, there's some coding which has been done to you, which is basically limiting your consciousness. So she's very knowledgeable about this area. And she showed me a symbol. She goes, what does this symbol do to you? And she showed me this kind of double circle, unusual formation. And I almost freaked out. I just about I almost wanted to get up and run in terror. I said, what on earth was that? And she said, this coding is actually a special code that puts guilt into you. And I said, yeah, I feel guilt and fear. So she goes, we're going to unravel the code. So she did it with me. And literally since that day, I feel guilt hardly at all compared to what I used to. And it's one of the things that also, so understand that they know this stuff, and there's a lot of dark agenda and coding and stuff done. That's why we use codes to shift things in you. Who's finding this fascinating, or by the way, just a bit of feedback from everyone. Who's enjoying this? Who's finding this really interesting, really fascinating? Yep, Sheldon, Christine. Yeah, so understand it. This is why I'm so big on this knowledge and learning this stuff to undo everything. And so understand that they know full well that if you're struggling financially in ignorant spiritual truths, this helps them keep their system and servants in place. So as soon as people step off their path and start causing problems for them, that's when they go after people. So it's very logical, because understand, but if just one person gets on track, or a number of people, that can change everything. I don't know who's seen the movie The Bug's Life, the one about the ants, and where that one ant stood up against a grasshopper. But there's a very, very powerful speech by the grasshopper. You remember that one, William? I remember that. Yeah, he just said, don't you understand? He said, if just one ant, steps up and gets empowered, he said, can't you see that our whole thing, because the whole movie's about these bugs who basically, these grasshoppers, there was a small group of grasshoppers controlling millions of ants, just a small group. And when the other grasshoppers were saying, who cares about this one ant? He's only one. And the big grasshopper said, you idiot. He got furious at them. He said, don't you realize that it just takes one? Because if all the rest of them listen to this one, our free food will end, because they were extorting the ants to get them all their food. So Christine says, very exciting to know we'll be able to undo all this muck. And Jai says, how do we protect and clear at the same time and see our true path? Well, we'll be explaining that shortly, Jai, and going into that a little bit more, and obviously covering that in the course, but we'll be doing a little bit. Oh, it's Carmen. Hi, Carmen. So obviously, as a Dark Master, you do everything possible to stop and route it out. So this way, they stop good people on their path and prospering and hitting their weaknesses. So because we've lived many lifetimes, and unresolved past life karma gives them an open door to hit you. So as an example, if you're a swindler or con man in a past life, they can hit your weaknesses and get you to swindle someone, or they can actually get other people to swindle you. So let's just say that financially you're doing well, and they know that because money is important to you, by taking your money, it'll throw you off your path and give you financial challenges. So you no longer put your focus on your spiritual path like you used to, or on helping humanity. They may see a weakness in you because you were a swindler in past lives, or your ancestors were, or you did something wrong, say 12 years ago, where you swindled some people in an investment, or you ripped some people off in your business, and then they can hit you in that area because they've got access to you. It's the law of karma, as they say it. So the law of karma means you must reap what you sow, which is one of the reasons, by the way, we did the Truth About Jesus webinar, because that's one very important thing around karma. But basically, the point is that the law of karma is exact. If you basically swindle someone, then you must, repay the full thing and get recompense. If you steal from someone, you must repay. If you do certain things like you extort someone, you'll reap what you sow. So then they can put negative energetic implants and mind control devices into you. So a bit more about Satan. Here's some examples of some awful ones to watch out for. The Bible warns about these false prophets or dark masters, and it says they've gone in the way of Cain, they've run greedily after the error of Balaam for profit, and perished in the gainsaying or rebellion of Korah. So these are three really awful dark masters, and how they work is they get into your energy field and they put blocks in there. So Cain was a guy who hated his brother and was jealous of his success. Balaam was a deliberate false prophet who put personal gain over the greater good of people, where he was actually making this higher personal gain his focus. And Korah was one who rebelled against higher authority and basically did his own thing and completely rebelled against authority higher than him. So these are three very quick ways, by the way, if you're really keen to get some dark masters in your energy field and like to hang out with them and have a party with them, this is the fastest way to do it. Hate your brother or sister, in other words, hate someone and become jealous of someone's acceptance and success, and try and find a way to take them out, like if not kill them physically, kill them financially, or take them out and cut them off at the knees. Balaam, deliberate false prophet, putting his personal gain first. So rather than looking to serve humanity, looking to entirely build up personal wealth, even to the extent of hurting others if necessary. And Korah, rebelling against higher authority, where basically seeking to break up a work or rebelling against authority rather than acknowledging and honouring authority. One thing I have to say I've learned is that dark masters understand authority very, very, very well. And it's one thing they don't do. And it's quite interesting. They hate authority, but they still know how to work within that realm. They know that if they break the laws of this planet and the rules of this realm, then they can be made accountable and face judgment. So they know, on the other hand, if they can have you and everyone else doing all the breaking of the laws, they can attack and can keep going after. Whereas if people, for example, are obeying the laws and are walking in right standing, then they've got a real problem. Because then then the light masters like Michael and the archangels can get in and they can help do something about it and help you out. So these are awful ones to watch out for and stuff to become cleared of. So, and all of us have done that at some stage in our life. We've hated someone, or we've had bitterness towards someone, or we've made our personal gain a priority, we've rebelled against higher authority. Another one to watch out for, in 1 Kings 16-21, we've read a lot about a dark master called Jezebel. The account of Naboth's vineyard is sobering and shows you what happens if you let financial gain become your focus, compromise your truth, or give up your power. So in this one here, you can read it in the King James Bible, but she convinced her husband to get involved in dishonest financial practices for personal gain. So she uses letters and she owns the banking and financial system. So basically what happens in here, let me just quickly get this up and just show you it. So basically what you can see here is this King Ahab desired to get hold of a vineyard from this guy, and the guy refused it to him because he said it was his family's inheritance. So he was upset, and what it says, his wife said to him, do you not now govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise and eat bread and let your heart be merry. So in other words, I'll get you this vineyard. Chill, dude, you're the king of Israel, you'll get this. Someone's got a mic on. I need you to turn your mic off, please, whoever this is.
She posted pictures of very, very small children that they were her children had been in greatly.
Okay, fix it up. Okay, so it says here she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal. So interesting, isn't it? So she wrote letters in his name. And she said, proclaim a fast and set Naboth on high and set 2 men, sons of Belial, before him to bear witness against him. So here's another dark master, Belial. Now, this is one that we'll be covering a lot in our course because this is a horrible, horrible one. And for those of you who've ever had any kind of people speak untrue things against you, or banks unfairly take property off you, or anyone financially take assets away from you, this is directly what you're dealing with. You're dealing with this dark master Jezebel, and you're dealing with dark masters Belial, the sons of dark master Belial. So these are specific ones, for example, that you'll be dealing with. And so you'll see here how Naboth lost his vineyard as a result of this. So this one's a very tricky and a very horrible one to do that with. And especially letters. So letters are something to become very wary about because these are used quite heavily. In Revelation, it calls it a whore of Babylon. In Proverbs, it warns about being caught up with people driven towards spoil or dishonest gain. So let's have a quick look at Proverbs 1. So it goes through here from verse 10. It said, come, lay us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave. I mean, we shall find all precious substance and fill our houses with spoil. In other words, make lots of money. My son, don't walk with them. Refrain your foot from their path. So basically, it's a warning that everyone, so it away as everyone is greedy of gain, which takes away the life of the owners. So in other words, as you basically become greedy of gain, it says you basically will take your life away, which means you may end up with the money, but you will lose the life in your soul. And you can read that further on in Proverbs, that it says that even if you get rich, if you've done it this way, you'll end up empty and miserable. For those of you who've ever read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, when he talked about the richest men in the world, he noted that every single one of them at the end of their life either went insane or died a broken man, apart from one. And it's very interesting what happens when you take that path. So it's very sobering, Christine, yeah. Then when you read about wisdom, so basically wisdom, it says she's crying out, telling people to learn the truth and walk in the ways of what's truth. And then she says, because I called and you refused and no one regarded, you set at naught my counsel. In other words, you wouldn't listen to me and you got caught up in gain and greed. I will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear comes. You will call upon me, but I will not answer. In other words, it's too late. So that's a little bit of a sobering one there too, about the importance of following the right path and doing all this kind of stuff. So it says here that Revelation 17, and you can see here it talks about this lady called the whore of Babylon. And it calls her drunk with the blood of saints. And you can read through here where it talks about them, and you can read Revelation 18, but it talks about her basically building wealth and riches and doing it with bloodshed. So this is the whole point of these dark masters and why you just don't desire to get involved with. And know when you're getting letters and lawsuits and governments coming after you, this is directly what you're dealing with. So many celebrities and world leaders actually acknowledge and honor Satan and see him as a helpful thing. They mind control the public and beguile them through music, TV shows, movies, concerts, and many admit this is done. The way it works is they get into a deeper, more relaxed brain state through music and movies. What then happens is while you watch them, negative programs and implants shoot in your subconscious mind. So what we do in this webinar, and most of you I think have come, is anyone here who's never come to one of my webinars before? Just out of interest. Anyone? Like you've never come to one of these webinars before, this is your first time. Ah, Carmen, hi, welcome. So we've got one. Yeah, so what we do at one stage, Carmen, and everyone else knows how we do this, is we'll actually do, we get codes up there and we move people into a relaxed brain state and we do a clearing on you. So understand that this is what they do with television. Like when you're watching television, you're in what's called an alpha brain state, where you're in a more relaxed, more relaxed, more open brain state. So this, when you're watching a webinar, you're moving into an alpha state, like doing this. So the point is, that's when you're susceptible and open to programming. That's why it's very important who you listen to. So in television and rock music, they're doing this kind of stuff all the time. And there's been various people who've come out who've acknowledged this. There was a guy called John Todd in the 70s who came out who actually showed how music was specifically implanted with programs to basically put things in the young people. William, I know he was the one who showed me. He found that he was horrified because he used to love watching Disney and cartoons. But Disney actually was a whole mind control program, and he actually showed me extracts from cartoons where you see obviously sexualized symbols going into kids, and I was just absolutely shocked because, of course, I grew up loving, that kind of stuff. So it was a bit of a shock for me when I first saw that stuff. So, for example, in The Wizard of Oz, the Follow the Yellow Brick Road is a negative program. That's something that actually goes back to some kind of ritual to basically say follow the path and basically follow the illusion is what it's saying. So Hollywood is one of the biggest satanic places imaginable. And keep in mind, this, if you don't believe me, just go and do some research. Many celebrities have been coming out about this. And like I said, some have even claimed they do daily sacrifices, eat human flesh, and some of the executives do this kind of stuff. Now, I've got obviously, no one's come up and got photos or videos of them doing this, but guys like Macaulay Culkin, Corey Feldman, Justin Bieber, quite a few of them have come out and actually said they do this. And that was one of the reasons that Justin Bieber pulled out and pulled away from movies. So Macaulay Culkin especially gave a very forthright discussion about the whole thing and what really goes on, and he couldn't believe his eyes. And there's some stuff he says I'd rather not say on here, but for those of you who do the course, I'll share a little bit more about what happens, because it's important to know this. And you'd be amazed how you might think, does this apply to me? And the answer is it actually does, because many of the practices that go on indirectly, people are getting caught up with today in their daily lives, not actually realizing it. So they even know, for example, that if you go to a high place, and this is a very geophysical law as well as spiritual law, if you go to a high place in an area and speak stuff over an area, there's actually power in that, and you can actually energetically program it. Those of you who've ever gone online and read about 5G, they're talking about how mobile phone towers and things like that are used to program people and send special signals out. And there's numerous evidence on this, and even how we've actually, in our own house, for example, we've got a special device that we found, a Tesla device, to neutralize the effect of Wi-Fi and 5G devices and things like that. Because in all honesty, I couldn't believe the difference in my house when I got it. So it's a special Tesla device which I purchased. But they do. These things actually affect your brain waves. Most studies have come out and admit that mobile phone radiation next to you when you sleep. I remember years ago going to my spiritual natural healer I was telling you about in Perth here, because I was having trouble sleeping and often getting very agitated. And she just said to me, she texted me, she goes, do you have your mobile phone in your room? And I said, yeah. And she goes, well, that's what's causing it. So she did a clearing on me, got me to put a special thing on my phone, a special chip, which neutralized it. And then I kept it out of my room for a couple of weeks, and I couldn't believe the difference in my sleep. So equally, they know this, that when you go to high places or strategic places or grid lines where grid lines intersect and do sacrifices, or you do horrible stuff there or reverse the energy, that can actually change the energy of a region and give them control and lower the consciousness and allow their dark masters to enter. And the way to think of it, if you've got a beautiful house with people full of light and joy, negative, gossiping, critical people don't want to come near it. They find it makes them uncomfortable. Whereas by contrast, if you've got a house with gossips and critical, negative, horrible people everywhere, they'll turn up there and feel at home. So likewise, dark masters won't come in unless the consciousness gets lowered in the region. So this is one of the things they do. And some people in this webinar have been part of things that we've actually gone to places and actually changed the energy by undoing their incantations. I can remember years ago, and this is when I was skeptical about it, I must admit, when I first learned all this. It sounded too fantastic to be true. And I can remember going down to a local beach because I was told particularly how they do rituals on beaches to block the energy of the water, because that blocks prosperity. Because in metaphysics, the sea is synonymous with prosperity and wealth and abundance. So they often do that so they can control the flow of abundance and other things in a region. And so we went there down to our local beach and unlocked the beach using some rituals we were taught. And I must admit, I felt a little bit embarrassed, and so I did it at night, and I only took a few people down with me. And to my absolute amazement, I actually saw a glorious light come, like physically. This wasn't a vision, and everyone on the beach who was there at the time saw it. And next minute, that part of the beach opened up with a white mist of purity, and it was full of light over the exact region we'd done it. And I just stared there and couldn't speak for ages, including the 7 people that I was with on the beach. So it's pretty profound, this kind of stuff. So these are some examples that you can look into yourself who've come out, who've either told about this stuff or have actually acknowledged Satan. So they've actually come out and acknowledged Satan. Madonna has openly come out and acknowledged Satan and encouraging people to worship and follow Satan. Lady Gaga admitted Satan communicates to her through dreams and channels into her during live performances. Miley Cyrus, when she's asked at a concert, what's your secret to success? She responded, make a deal with Satan. The reporters and the kids chuckled nervously, and she said, angrily, what? You think I'm kidding? And stormed out. So you can read about that online. Tina Turner was a washed-up 50-year-old with a finished career. She had an encounter with Satan in her meditation because he promised to give her career back with certain conditions. She got her career back overnight and admitted that it came with that song, Simply the Best, as some of you would know. So basically, a whole song, from what I was understood, written to Satan, I'm simply the best. So, interesting stuff. So they target certain areas of your life. So dark druids, dark masters. And so, believe you me, if they can block up your energy flow, they can keep you from moving. And many of you have had clearings in your chakras and have seen that. So if your energy flow is blocked, you won't be able to move forward. I know this happens to me. When I've had my energy blocked, I know straight away. And this limits your growth and stops you from being able to step on your path. The aim is to keep you from stepping on by hindering your finances, health, relationships through energetic implants and blockages. It also keeps you trapped in the reincarnation cycle, never finding your path, let alone stepping into it and being able to ascend back into source. So the other issue is because we live so many lifetimes, they can read our past lives well, know why we're here, and know our weaknesses. So let's say a man raped women and treated them appallingly in a past life. Well, let's say you've been raped in a past life, as some people here have been through that stuff. So you'll basically find blocks in your sexual area in some way. So people who've been raped in past lives or current lifetimes will notice blocks in those areas. And they find it very hard to open those areas up. And there are people, quite a few on this webinar actually, who've had experiences where we've unlocked stuff within that area. I can remember years ago, I was having a terrible problem sexually in my life. I was finding it really difficult to actually, well, excuse the bluntness, but get it up during sex. It became really difficult. I started feeling sexually like no libido virtually at all. And this was going on for a few months, and I was really concerned about it. So I ended up seeing a shaman about it, and we tuned in very deeply. And one of the things that showed up was a past girlfriend I'd seen, who was a very powerful, tantric witch and teacher. She'd actually placed an implant over that, and of course used some past life stuff and other stuff. So I actually had an implant that was placed in there and locked over the area like a dome. It took me half an hour to remove it with him. It was a very difficult one to remove, but we removed it. And I noticed within about a week, it was like everything was back to normal. So that's one example. Another example is you're a swindler in past lives. So and in my case, I was constantly having like swindling and things go wrong around my finances. And I eventually discovered in some very deep regressions that I actually had run extortion rackets in past lives and been a swindler and swindled many, many people. And I needed to go through a whole lot of clearing and make that right. And so one of the things they still to this day, I keep getting told from time to time to give money to certain people or do things. And I know that's because they told me that for most of this lifetime, they said, you'll be making a lot of that right, and repaying people. So if you get led to repay, give people money for no reason, just do it. So unless you're clearing out and making karma right, dark druids will keep attacking you and keep attracting these experiences. So just to be clear, there's no question having abundance and wealth is a good thing because it gives choices and opportunity. But like anything, the way you choose to become abundant is critical. And there is a truth that although the end result is important, the process to get there is important too. Because, for example, if you become a successful, basically, let's say, for example, as a wife with her husband, you get what you want, but you do it through nagging and through manipulating them. Sure, the end result may turn out right, but you're creating a bad pattern that eventually is going to cause damage in your marriage. So likewise, whenever you choose a dishonest dark path or channeling dark masters, you're basically asking for challenges and asking for problems. Whereas by contrast, when you're channeling the light masters or engaging conscious business practices. So just so you know, we're coming to an end now. We're about to start taking questions before going through the course. It's just gone for a little bit of time, I know, but I really desire to give you as much, content and knowledge as I could without cutting corners for you today. So that's one of the reasons why. So it's interesting because Carmen says, I don't know anything about my past lifetimes, so I've had glands problems since puberty, my mother too. Right now I've told my energy, my first chakra is very low and I haven't had a period. Yeah, wow. No, that's pretty, look, I would guarantee you that that's, if it's in your mother, it would either be an ancestral issue, Carmen, or it would be some kind of, it'd be some kind of, ancestral issue, or it would just be some kind of curse or whatever, or dark master curse going back. It could be any of those things. So, absolutely. So, there's two ways to become prosperous, the way of the Satan or way of the Christ. I'm just using them to help you understand it. And basically, the best way to understand the way of the Satan, and Yogananda in the autobiography of the yogi says, the best way to think of Satan is a multidimensional being who's about keeping you separate from source. That's how he summarizes it. So it's a good way to think of Satan, a multidimensional being who's about keeping you separate from source. So when you choose this path, engaging in dark business practices or in extreme cases actually make deals, then you can become financially prosperous very quickly. And I've had dreams about that. I've actually seen in dreams becoming prosperous through deals with, and I've seen people doing it. And in the dream, Satan actually was very angry at me because I was, at that time, he told me going against what he was doing by teaching people the other way, and he would not tolerate me coming against him. So it was quite interesting. So by moving in this path, you're in the dark, and it's all about personal gain and profit over people. The problem with this is you pay a big price because it keeps you connected to the 3D realm. So although you have all this money, your soul is empty, you submit to the implant's rules and consequences, and you stay trapped in this lower dimension. So when you die, you simply reincarnate and come back because you haven't ascended. That's why Jesus said, you cannot basically, he said it's very hard for a rich man or woman to inherit the kingdom of heaven or ascend because it's very hard when you have a lot of money to not stay attached to this 3D realm. So, and to keep in mind, Jesus never said don't have wealth. In fact, he said, he himself was very abundantly provided for. But he was very clear, do not be attached to this wealth. Do not make this your God. Make sure that you're using this wealth for greater good. Otherwise, yes, you will keep coming back to this wealth because this wealth will keep you attached to this earth. So just something to keep in mind. So rich people without a higher purpose who aren't serving the Christ are miserable with an empty soul. So if you're not basically doing things in the right path and for the right purposes. Max says, this is massive info. Thanks for the best explanation I've heard. No, thank you, Max. That's very kind. So, yeah, look, that's very, very good of you. Yeah, look, I've spent years learning this stuff and made this my passion and study, Max. So, yeah, so that's basically it. Now, the way of Christ it's a harder path, and Christ openly said this. He said, this is going against the tide, whereas the Dark Master's path, you're going with the tide because they control the planet right now. So he said, this is a harder path. Christ openly admitted, he said, look, I only came for one purpose. I came to give people a way out of this incarnation cycle. That's what he said. That's really what if I had to summarize everything Christ did, was he came to give you a way out. Because the planet was so imprisoned and so trapped, and everyone was caught up and had no real way out because of the karmic law and keep repeating karmic patterns, Christ turned up and said, I'm giving you a fast track out. If you accept me, if you work with me, if you receive me and work with me, I can clear your karma and then help you accelerate the process so you can ascend and get out of it. That's basically what happened. But it's a harder path because you've got to go against the tide. You've got to go against what the whole planet's doing. So when you choose this way, it's a longer path, takes more time, there's sacrifice involved, and you've got to put the humanity and planetary needs first. In other words, you've got to start behaving not like the lower dimensional planet Earth behaves, but start behaving like the higher consciousness realms behaves, like the higher masters of the higher order, the galactic brotherhood, the universal galactic beings, and the archangels who are here to serve humanity and here to serve the planet and here to serve the galaxy. So in other words, you need to walk on a path of service of humanity and a service of changing the planet. So, and yes, you'll get dark masters attacking you or trying to distract you, because once you're walking this path, it's very hard for them to do much to you. But they can attack you or at least distract you and make it hard for you. So the long-term reward is better. Not only will you be prosperous, you'll be full in your soul, on path, and real substance and meaning in your life. You'll also help people prosper collectively and help the homeless, poor, broken-hearted. So just quickly, there's a number of people here who've had experiences. Charlotte, who is a gym owner and restaurant owner, she came with lots of debt and started working, and then after doing various clearings, manifestation training, and negative energy clearings, was clear of her debt and was starting to prosper in all areas of her life. This is our client. I've kept the name out only because she's involved in a court hearing about the matter. But she came to one of my webinars 6 months ago and got instantly healed on her back, which, mind you, for me was a real like, wow. I just happened to have a vision in a webinar in a clearing where I clearly saw some implant in someone's back, and I just pulled it out. And she straight away messaged me and said, that was me. She goes, my back's been very, very bad from a car accident. I just got instantly healed from it. Like, I got no pain. And it's still the case today. Connor was a personal trainer and working for someone else on a low income with lots of debts, and 3 years later, he did the manifestation and clearings with me and with our programs, and now he's got a prosperous business, 6-figure income, and no debts. And Christine, who's working with me still right now, and one of our, doing amazing work in all this kind of areas, a healer herself. She gives her story, how it's changed her life, brought her much greater peace, much greater awareness, and much more on her path, and being cleared and healed of a heap of stuff. So working with myself, with William, and getting much, much more clearer on her path. Okay, so let's just do a bit of a clearing before we take questions and run through the course with you. So like I mentioned, 4 major brain states. So what we'll be doing is moving you into a deeper brain state and moving you into that place so you can go through a clearing. So really like what they do with mind control stuff, but doing it on a deeper layer for you now. So what we're going to do is get you to breathe in deeply for 4 counts, through your nose, hold for 4 counts, and then breathe out of your mouth through 8 counts. So breathe in through your nose for 4 counts, and then hold for 4 counts, and out through your mouth for 8 counts. And just keep, as you're going down this breathing path and doing this, I'm going to do some clearings of the highest priority Dark Master programs that have been installed in each of you to limit your ability to financially move forward. Because I'm seeing quite a lot of them in people. I'm like seeing a layer of programs in people. And in fact, it's such a deep layer, it's hard to explain. There's like a mass of them, and I'm sure William's seeing it, but there's like a massive like green slates or energy things going right through all people's energy field. It's hard to explain, but yeah. Sacrifices, yeah, just stuff that's been done to limit people. William's seeing it himself.
I see it very clearly. It's like vivid.
Yeah, vivid, yeah, I'm seeing it too. So breathing through for 4, hold for 4, and out through the mouth for 8. and outdate. It is commanded by the power of Christ and by the laws of the higher orders of the higher law in this realm here in this lower dimensional planet Earth, by a higher law, that this ultimate master clearing code be used to clear all higher level blocks and implants in each and every person installed by dark masters through sacrifices in each and every person around their finances now. We apply the blood of Christ over each and every person's energy fields around this area, and we just remove every implant, everything of the highest priority at this outer layer, blocking people's finances now. Wow. Yeah, there's just a raft of things just shot out of people's energy fields, and I'm like, wow. William and I are just going like, wow.
Oh.
Wow, that's just a beautiful clearing. Just allow this code just to seep in and cover you in all your energy. And what I'm also going to do is any dark masters specifically right now vexing people at this current moment that are ready to be removed, be removed now. I see two particular peoples being removed from. Yeah, there's one being removed from Helen. So Helen, you're getting one removed from you.
Christine Evans is too.
Yeah, Christine Evans, William said, has one being removed from her as well.
Leviathan is being removed, I see.
Yeah, Leviathan's being removed from Christine Evans. And Helen says thank you and feeling it, yeah. Yeah, and for Carmen, this is Carmen Taylor, you're having one removed from you right now. Just one that's caused you some grief and sorrow in your heart. I don't see why it's happened, but it's just blocked you a bit and meant you've been carrying a lot of sadness and anxiety and grief, which is just being removed from you now. And all the karma, which is basically in the way and caused that, is gone and forgiven and released.
It's around her mom.
Yeah, around your mum. That's what William said.
That's what I'm reading.
Love you, thank you.
It's Dark Master Satan who's been attacking her.
Yeah, Satan's been attacking you specifically, William says. So, interesting. You've been on a big path. Okay, everyone. So just share your experiences of that one. And any questions and experiences, I'm just going to give you a minute. I'm just going to go off for a minute. I'll be straight back. But just type in the text chat your experiences or anything that happened to you or questions before we go ahead and start the course and the offer on what we're going to be for your ongoing learning opportunity. Plenty of things being shared. Mitchell, a dark master was scared, mentioned second half clearing, got cleared out. Christine, code changes were amazing. As you clearing the dark master, the struggle and heavy pressure at the back of the head. Thank you so much. Sheldon was copying. Rochelle, massive emotional release, sobbing, that was big, thank you. Max was intense. Greater sense of confidence and clarity. Nolan, a lot of body movement, stretching, really heavy in the throat and chest. Now that's great. Coughing and pain. Linda being cleared. Very cold and cleaning energy around the body. Okay, so questions. Please enter your questions on the chat. Yep, okay, so any more questions before we move around to the offer now? Peter says, what about in Luke, when an unclean spirit is cast of a person, the space is not filled with Christ, and the spirit comes back with more, then the person is in a worse condition? Yeah, well, you've misread that one, Peter. I mean, the church has taught such crap. Jesus never said that. Jesus was specifically referring that scripture to Pharisees and religious leaders who were going around and doing sort of spiritual cleansing and demonic release, but they weren't changing their life and keeping their bitterness, whereas Jesus regularly was clearing people out of demon spirits and dark masters who didn't originally know him, but so they'd come to know and understand him. So that's just, yeah, a common misconception of the church. Yeah, I'm generally like to be pretty straight because it helps people here. Because Tendai says, I'm confused about the water beach. Do we do that as Christians? I don't like those kind of labels. One of the reasons that we don't really encourage churchgoers to come to our webinars, only because we find they're very indoctrinated with the church teachings and not open to these higher realms. So, for example, I don't use labels Christians, non-Christians, or whatever. To me, it's bringing in a religion that serves no purpose. The more the question is whether you follow Christ, and the truth is, you'll read about this even in the Bible. It talks about clearing energies around these places as well. So, Stephen, I've been tied up for 12 years, and recently, 3 days ago, had a dream where my arms are crossed over my chest and something holding me in place of pressure. Yeah, don't know if anything removed or not. So, yeah, well, you'll generally feel if you have, Steve. In other words, yeah, look, in the course, we're certainly going to be clearing dark masters out of people in this one. So what can I do to prevent them trying to get in again? Well, look, basically the main thing is it's an ongoing process, Carmen, you know, and actually one of the things is what we'll be covering in the course a lot is how to clear them out and how to protect yourself using sacred rituals like pyramids and energy shields and the blood of Christ and things like that you can use. If you fell asleep, it's very common, Alicia, because that's a very common thing to happen for people is to fall asleep. So that shows it's really working as a rule. So when you fall asleep. So that often happens because you're going into a much deeper brain state. Okay, so what's next? So what we're offering, we're calling it Resolve the Karmic Riddle Sabotaging Your Finances, a live 5-class transformation. So basically, we're about gaining financial abundance, clearing karmic dark master loopholes, and experiencing a breakthrough. So this is really going to be about clearing out dark masters and especially getting, as I mentioned, dealing with the karmic riddle, which, in other words, how to stop these karmic loopholes, because that's the main thing that you need to get on top of, is to clear the karmic loopholes. That's the main thing that's in the way. So basically, resolving the riddle, gaining abundance, clearing loopholes, experiencing a breakthrough, and much more. And basically, it's all for as little as $47 per week. So we understand that obviously people who've got financial challenges, they need to basically do that. So we've got an upfront option, and it's all for as little as $47 per week. So what you get is you get 5 live 90-minute transformation classes. We'll go for at least 90 minutes, sometimes longer. Unlimited access to the recordings of each session through a membership site. So this way, you'll be able to go back and keep doing the clearings, because as well as learning about these dark masters and how you block you get specifically unlimited access to the recordings, which means you can go back and do them regularly. I know that myself, when I've done anything like this, I've always gone back and watched the recordings regularly, and people who've been getting the best results continue to do that. So you get access to the recordings, and low cost to obtain knowledge. It cost me, I say conservatively, $500,000 to obtain, but in all honesty, it costs a lot more than that when I look at all the things I've set up, invested in, and things like that. So this will help you if you're ready to experience your financial miracle, bringing the abundance you deserve. Close out once and for all the karmic loops dark masters exploit to attack and sabotage your finances, to make you immune to dark masters and negative energy attacks. Manifest mental clarity so you see the right opportunities and make quality decisions at the best times. How to start attracting investments which make you money, are aligned with your path and run by honest people. So this automatically repels bad investment opportunities and prevents dark masters unknowingly influencing decision making. And then what we're going to be looking at is the two worst and most dangerous sabotaging dark masters who control the financial realms and stops your abundance cold, and how to defeat them without extra effort. And yeah, look, this is going to be a lot further, and for those who come to the Sunday webinars, this is going to be a lot more advanced than going into some of the really deep stuff, and especially looking at, like I said, two of the worst, the ones that generally we don't really reveal unless people have had a fair bit of kind of preparation, training, and understanding in how to address these, and lots more. So this is basically clearing it all out and helping you manifest clarity and attract investments. So number one is introduction to dark masters, is what will be covered, how they came about, their background and history, the different breeds of dark masters such as the Nephilim and Jezebel, and how they work to attack finances. So we're covering that. A specific look at dark masters who govern the financial realm, exploring karmic loopholes and how they work within realms of authorities, principalities, and order. So it's very important that, so you'll be learning about the rules of the realm and the rules of the order and how all of this works a lot more. Introduction to the implants, blocks, and devices they use, and a little bit more advanced stuff on the curse texts and spells, particularly covering discarnates and how to understand these and clear these out and why they do what they do. Because I would say, in my case, auric clearing and clearing discarnates is one of the main things I do in my own life and family, and William does with me. Then we'll be looking further at the implants devices used, how they block your etheric and catheric bodies. It's interesting that Ken Wilber and many modern day consciousness speakers are talking about etheric and catheric bodies, creating dark energetic patterning to keep you trapped in the cycle of lack and ill health, and a full clearing of the etheric and catheric bodies and energetic patterning. And class 5 is the final integration session where we answer questions and help clear anyone who still has blocks with energetic patternings. What I mean by energetic patterning is that what dark masters know is that even if you do physical clearing, or let's say you've got a gallbladder issue like I used to have, and I found it kept coming back. The thing is, if you've still got an etheric or catheric patterning happening, it will keep coming back. If you've got that in your relationship or financial, in the financial, it'll keep coming back no matter what you do. And it's interesting because in Ken Wilber's book on the Religion of Tomorrow, he predicts that etheric and catheric healing and medicine will become the future in the next 10, 20, 30 years of the planet. Because he said that's the area where he's finding there's a lot of ignorance. So we'll be covering a little bit about that. And then doing a bonus week where we invite everyone from our different courses to a special class involving clearings. So start date will be 22nd of February. The time will be 12:30 for Australia. And we're choosing that day deliberately. It doesn't mean we'll stay that day, but we're choosing Friday, 22nd of February, because it's a very numerologically powerful day. There's 4 2s, 2222. So 2 is a very good number for feminine energy, intense energy, and clearing things out. So we're starting on the 22nd of February, 2019, having a number of places 20, or 22, actually, more accurately, is what that should actually say. So I'll just fix that one up. So 22. So 22 places. So reminder, live 5-week transformation, gain financial abundance, clear blockages and dark masters, experience a breakthrough, and much more. Who this is for? You're open-minded, creative, out-of-the-box solutions, and in higher realms. You know you need a financial miracle, and since dark forces are blocking it, You're fed up with making bad decisions around money and are willing to do anything to solve your current situation, clear blockages, and transform your life to make more money, be healthier, and have happier, better relationships. So if you know you've got these things blocking you and getting in your way and distracting you, taking you off your path, causing you to do things that are not financially helpful for you, then this will be perfect for you. You're an action taker, which is very important, because in all truth, if you're not an action taker, nothing that we do or anyone can do can help you, and you'll basically be a conduit for the dark masters. So you're an action taker, and you're already successful and not afraid to invest in your self-growth and to continually improve and evolve, and will do the homework required. I love it. Thanks you, Helen. Helen's saying, count me in. Very keen. So, love it. And Anna, yes, please. Yep. So, you're continually successful and if not afraid to invest in your self-growth. So, that's also very important. Now, this is not for you if you're skeptic and closed-minded, you don't believe in this stuff, you believe your life is good, and you really just don't you're still not convinced. And that's I can't help you, you know. If basically we can't help you if you don't believe in it or you're still skeptical, because in all truthfulness, you need to have an open mind. So that's not at this stage, that's fine, but it won't help you. If you're just new to the webinar and you really just still need to see more before you commit, we get that. And we just thank you for coming because we appreciate it. And not for uncommitted or action taker. So generally people who blame others for their bad choices and lack of results and won't attend the class and expect a magic bullet to fix everything and play the poor me, then we can't help you either. So what you'd expect to invest for this, 2997, that's generally when I've done courses like this with other mentors, I've been paying around about that. And that's what I paid, probably somewhere around about that with Toby Alexander. The reason why I say probably is I was paying a very high monthly fee, but I know for similar programs for other people, he's charging anything from $2,000 to $5,000. So that was in US dollars. So that's why I put 2997. So today, it's only $997 up front or $47 per week in 26 installments with a total invested of just 1,222. Now, so $997, and that's only for the day. Now, for VIP members, 25% off. So that, what I mean by a VIP member is if you've already enrolled in one of our current courses like Manifestation or J-Seals, or you're already enrolled or done one of those courses and paid for it, then yes, you can get this VIP, and there's a special code that you'll be putting in. So this will give you basically 25% off. So that's a special deal if you're a VIP member and you commit today. So that means you've already invested in the course. So you get 5 live 90-minute transformation classes you get. Unlimited access to the recordings of each session. Low cost to obtain knowledge. It cost me over $500,000 to obtain. So as usual, we always give a guarantee, just because we know that sometimes people sign up, and the truth is if you sign up, it's not for you. Let us know before the second class and we'll issue a prompt and courteous refund at no questions asked. So you just have to let us know and we'll release you from it and refund you. So special incentive, this one's only if you commit today. So the price, like I said, that will be available anytime up to when the course starts. But the actual incentive that we're giving here is only if you commit today. So you have to actually commit on this webinar and sign up. And you get a personalized session with William to help you clear dark masters of specific issues where you need help. And here's a really juicy one, because I'm going to be doing a new remote viewing training for some of our higher level members. My old one, which I've run, which teaches you some of the secrets to access your unconscious mind and how to lower your brain state to program yourself or clear or access higher unconscious data with financial markets or anything else. We're going to be, and because it's now a couple of years old, I wasn't planning to give access to anyone other than my higher level clients, but because I'm now I'm going to be doing a more advanced course for them, I'll be giving anyone who signs up today access to these old trainings, okay? Not to our new ones, but to our old ones. So this is a really, like I said, believe you me, I haven't offered this one before. So that's only if you sign up today. You'll actually get access to that. And this is even more exciting. Yep. So what to do next? Now, what I'm going to do, just give me a second. I've just got to go and grab the VIP. I'm going to put this link onto it for you. And then I'm going to have to quickly show you exactly, for those of you who desire the VIP, or those of you who've already paid for a course, you'll be able to get a special VIP. So just let me hold on and get the link for you. So this one, as you can see, is the price here. But what you do in the code is you type in the promo code, okay? And watch what I type in. Dark Masters VIP 25%, okay? And then you click apply. That's only for those of you who basically been so basically this only applies to you if you basically, like I said, you've done an existing course with us. So if that applies, you can complete that one. And like I said, you do that today and you'll get access to things. So yeah, plenty of comments now. Sheldon, me too, love this. Rochelle, love to see this course. Christine, that's great. Isaac keeps taking my money, yeah. Yeah, Isaac, it's great having you here. And this is exciting. For me, I lost connection when you started speaking about VIP rate. Yeah, for me, all I was saying is good news for you. Seeing as you've already paid for the course or bought a course before, this gives you a special access and special deal, is what it means. Just means you pay less. So not something that you really wish to complain about. Or okay, so Susan, we'll love to do this course. Wonderful information. Thank you. Yeah, thank you too, Susan. So any questions, everyone? So just to reiterate what you get here, you get one personalized session with William, and you get access to the old remote viewing training recordings. So attend the first class, and in a likely event you decide it's not for you, we'll issue a refund. And like I said, I haven't offered this one before with old remote viewing training recordings. This one I'm offering specifically for people today because I noticed that a lot of people who registered are people who've done a lot of my courses or just people who've been coming faithfully. So you'll get access to these old ones. And you get specifically to watch these ones and learn this stuff. And like I said, believe you me, this is a really good little thing there, just learning about how to access the unconscious. So payment link. So click on the link and choose. So okay, so who's in on the course? Thanks, James. Very informative and eye-opening. Sheldon, that's great. Christine, Anna, great. Natasha, is this different from the last karmic course that we did? It's very different, Natasha. Very, 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 very different. The last one was purely focused on karma clearing. This one is specifically focusing on, it's more advanced. It's, in all honesty, with this one here, we'll be covering karma a bit in the karmic loophole, but we're going to be doing, yes, it's basically more advanced because we're going to be covering some higher level dark masters stuff and everything of that kind. So we'll be bringing that in as well. Yeah, key knowledge for indigos, Christine. This is a really important course to take people to the next level. So I'm quite excited about this one. So any more questions before we end today? It starts on the 22nd of February, Robert. So, Robert, I'm broken at the moment. Consider potential of this. Hope it works for me. I'm just struggling. Yeah, well, look, basically, it'll definitely help, and you're just going to have to put a really good. Let me just put the link of the course into the chat for you. Good question. So Robert, yes, well, it will work, and the truth is, if you put the effort in, it will work. I mean, we'll do our part, you do your part. That's the best honest answer I can give you. So I'm going to put it in the chat for you now. So yep, click on the link, choose your payment method upfront or by payment plan. So yeah, there's a link for you. Okay, so you should see it in the questions, or sorry, in the chat now, Dark Masters course. And like I said, put in the VIP link, which I've given you there. Dark Masters VIP 25%. Any more questions before we end? Yes, Susan, we'll be definitely sending a link on email, so I'll make sure that Edward gets you. I'll just ask Edward. What's your email, Susan? I'll get Edward to send that to you. Yep, great, thanks. Yep, Sheldon, no problem. We'll do the same for you. Yep, and Fiona, no problem. Yep. Yes, Peter, I haven't seen that one, no, but thank you for that. Yep, sure. Okay, everyone. Well, thanks a lot, and I look forward to seeing you all shortly. Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.